Lake monsters are relatively common, with just about every lake in the world having some form of Nessie swimming around in it. And like Loch Ness, the locals of Lake Van have reported run-ins with a giant creature for centuries, with giant dragons said to lurk in the depths of this very salty lake. Welcome to Cryptid Corner, the series all things cryptids, and today we are going to look into the Lake Van monster. The Lake Van monster, also known as the Van Goru Janavara in Turkish, the Vana İçi Hreş in Armenian, and the Sinawire Golawane in Kurdish, is a large lake monster said to call the waters of Turkey's Lake Van home. Lake Van is the largest lake in Turkey and is also the largest soda lake in the world. Now, soda lake doesn't mean that Lake Van is made up of Sprite or something, but it does possess very high salinity and alkalinity due to the lake's unique geography, with the lake's pH sitting around 9.7 to 9.8, compared to the ocean's pH of 8.1, and possessing 67 times the alkalinity of the ocean. Due to this, only two species of fish live in this lake, the Terek, also known as the pearl mullet, and the Van Loach, which was very recently discovered, being discovered in 2018. And both of them were probably nabbed up on occasion by the extremely rare Van cat. Despite the lake having such a short list of wildlife, Armenian folklore tells of creatures known as vishaps, dragon-like creatures with a snake-like appearance and large wings that are said to inhabit bodies of water, including Lake Van. These creatures were said to be slain by the warrior god Vahagan, who would submerge himself into the lake and drag out as many vishaps as he could find. And on the island of Akdamar within the lake, a church built in 915 AD has a stone carving of a ship being attacked by a sea monster, with some believing this to be the monster of Lake Van. On April 29, 1889, the Ottoman newspaper Saadet would detail an incident involving three men who had stopped by the lake to rest. One of the men had gone off to wash in the lake when all of a sudden a large creature would grab a hold of his leg. The monster was cream-colored, resembling a large crocodile with the wings of a dragon. Two men tried all they could to free the man from the beast's jaws, eventually resorting to throwing hot coals and burning wood from their campfire at the monster, which caused it great pain. But when it retreated into the depths, it brought the man with it. The Ottoman government would send out a search party, but no trace of the man or the monster would be found. Sightings would amp up in the 1990s, and in 1997, a man named Unal Kozak had filmed what appeared to be a large creature, 40 to 50 feet in length, emerging from the water, what appears to be the beast's eye above the surface. And when it comes to lake monster footage, it's about as good as it gets, man. Good video quality and no detected use of CGI. No blurry photos here. And this monster has made quite the splash, being featured on several shows investigating the creature itself, and even having a poem about the monster being written by Turkey's former Prime Minister Bülent Ecevit. The statue of the monster has been erected in the city of Van, and although countless dives have not given us any answers regarding the monster's identity, one 2017 dive led to the discovery of a 3,000-year-old castle, which was well preserved due to the lake's unique properties. The mystery of the Lake Van monster has led many to wonder just what it is, especially given the lake's folklore and the 1997 video. Given the monster's description, some have theorized that it is some sort of plesiosaur, but not necessarily the long-necked ones, as many short-necked plesiosaurs within the subclade of Thalassophonia, such as the Leoplorodon, seem to be the best match for this type of beast. Obviously, the wings are missing, but when it comes to a giant aquatic crocodile-like creature, something like this just seems the most right. Well, outside of a giant croc, we'll get to that in a minute. Plus, I mean, I guess you could misinterpret the flippers as wings, but they kind of mention that the wings are between the limbs, so hard to miss. Mosasaurus could also somewhat fit this bill as, a large croc-headed marine reptile from the ancient past. They both kind of link together, but obviously Leopleurodon, like plesiosaurs, are a better match. My biggest problem with the ancient marine reptile living in the lake is that Lake Van wasn't always a soda lake, as the lake was relatively freshwater up until 600,000 years ago, with an outlet that would deposit many of the salts that would be deposited into the lake. But following the eruption of Mount Nemrut, this outlet would be blocked off, and the accumulation of salts from the earth below would lead to the lake's high salinity and would kill off just about all complex life in the lake, sparing only 2 fish and some specialized plankton that evolved to live in the lake. So even if plesiosaurs or mosasaurs had managed to survive in the lake's depths somehow, next to nothing would be able to survive Lake Van's own mass extinction event. And you could apply this to just about any other culprit, such as out-of-place Nile crocodiles, giant squids, or many other lake monster culprits, as the lake is just so unsafe for freshwater animals. But at the same time, even saltwater animals aren't safe, as most of them would not be able to handle the amount of salt and alkalinity within the lake. Now, when looking at the 1997 video, some believe that the monster could have been an elephant, or maybe multiple elephants lined up in the water. And you can kind of see what they're talking about here. This frame definitely looks like an elephant, like with its trunk under the water and its ears still being submerged. Elephants are also excellent swimmers and enjoy taking a break, even in deep bodies of water. A glaring problem with this, though, would be that elephants haven't lived in this region for a very long time, and it is unlikely that someone just took out their elephants to the lake for baths every day, although they would be excellent odors if they did. Despite this, many believe the monster to be a hoax, influenced somewhat by local mythologies and Western lake monster trends. Starting with the artwork from the church, I'm pretty confident that this is not depicting some unknown lake monster, but the story of Jonah from the Bible. In this story, Jonah, who is given a task from God, tries to abandon his responsibilities, and ends up being thrown off of the boat he is traveling on and being swallowed by a large whale, which is what seems to be depicted here. And I mean, it would make a lot of sense to depict this biblical scene in church artwork on the church's walls, especially a church out on an island. And despite how solid the video is, many suspect the 1997 video to be a hoax, albeit an extremely well-made one. The creature only moves in a straight line, as if it's being tugged by a boat. The eye of the monster never blinks, and looking at it a little longer definitely looks really fake. Or it never looks around either. And the bubbles appear to be very sporadic, as if being blown from a hose underneath the model itself. This is an extremely elaborate hoax, and this is really good work here, but even I think it's pretty fake. Many locals even believe that the monster, like many other lake monsters, was made up to drive tourism. And when you got the largest lake in Turkey with good fishing and plenty of history, the only thing is missing is a lake monster. Lake Van has many peoples who live among its shorelines, so if something massive was living in this lake, its population must have been quite sizable, at least at some point. But despite this, none have been snagged up by fishermen or washed up along the shores, making its likelihood of existing quite low. And so the legend of the Lake Van monster appears to be just that, a legend. Lake Van is such a unique place with such rich history, a unique ecology, and more salt than a bad gamer. So, how could someone not believe that something giant lived in here, at least at some point? After all, the lake is so large that it would constantly be referred to as a sea by the locals. So, with how large and deep the lake is, what secrets remain within its depths? And that is going to do it for the Lake Van monster. This was a really interesting topic to look into, not only because of the footage of it, like this is some grade A lake monster footage here, but Also, just because of how unique this area is, like a whole lake where only two fish are known to live, and one of the fish people didn't even know about until like 7 years ago. It's just so interesting to me. So, what do you think about this lake monster? Do you think that it's a real dragon beneath the lake? Do you think it's some giant whale or something? Do you think it's somebody letting their elephant out to go take a bath? Make sure to let me know in the comments down below. And also make sure to leave a comment if you have any recommendations for other cryptids to cover on the channel. This video itself was a recommendation from one of the channel members. So thank you, GJ Gerard, for this recommendation. It was a lot of fun looking into this topic. And also, on top of recommendations, you could also become a member. For just a little bit a month, you get access to videos early. So if you're on the way to work or getting ready for work or school, you can go ahead and put that new little water bill on as background noise. And I try to prioritize member recommendations when getting them, because you are the real ones, but all of y'all watching are the real ones. So again, I'd like to thank you for watching. Make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you liked it as well, and ring that notification bell so you're always notified the second I upload. And outside of that, I would like to see you in the next one.